Joining us right now from Washington is Maryland Congressman Chris Van Hollen. Good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
All right. Well, this is extraordinary to a lot of people because they thought, well, that's the last thing that Nancy Pelosi would want would be a vote on it, because some members of her own party might actually bail on her position that offshore drilling is a bad idea and go along with a lot of the Republicans.
Well, what Speaker Pelosi has said is two things. First of all, our Republican colleagues have been engaged in a great political stunt to try and persuade the American people that by giving the oil companies more public lands now, you'll see an immediate drop in gas prices. And our own Department of Energy has said that's not true. At the earliest, you'd see something in 10 years, and at that, it would be insignificant. But what the Speaker has also said is that she would consider that as part of a comprehensive energy strategy that focuses primarily on renewable energy and energy efficiency, because it's absolutely clear, as even T. Boone Pickens have said, you can't drill your way to energy independence in this country.
Okay, but we're always talking about time, so why would Nancy Pelosi allow Congress to go on vacation before at least having a vote on this thing?
Well, what we voted on before the break for Congress were things that would have an immediate impact at the pump.
In your opinion?
Well, for example, I mean, you asked the question. For example, we proposed that we swap oil out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That would have an effect in 10 days, not 10 years. We had legislation to crack down on excessive speculation in the oil futures market. That would have an immediate impact. Our Republican colleagues said no to both of those. Now we need to deal with both the short term and the longer term. Domestic production is part of an overall comprehensive strategy for the longer term. We hope to use some of the revenues generated from that process to invest in renewable energy and energy efficiency. That's got to be the long-term solution here.
Okay. Eric Cantor is a Virginia congressman. He's joining us from Richmond. We've been having a little technical problems. He's on the phone. I hope you've been listening, Eric, to what Chris has said regarding the Democrats' quest for oil. That is not a very good signal. We're going to have to work that out. Hey, Chris, let's go back to you for just a second. Let me ask you about this. Regarding offshore oil drilling, it sounds like the Chinese, in a couple of months, are going to start drilling about 60 miles off of our shores down around Florida. Why is it okay for the Chinese to take our oil and we shouldn't go after that oil?
Well, look, there's a lot of speculation about what the Chinese may or may not do.
Well, let's just speculate that they're hypothetically.
Well,
let's say they're going to do it. Let's say they're going to do it.
First of all, where the Chinese are drilling is not part of our outer continental shelf. But what the Speaker has said is that we should look at this increased domestic production as part of an overall energy strategy. But what we've said, and we had a vote on this before we went out, is let's ask the oil and gas companies to start drilling on the more than 68 million acres of public lands that they have right now. Accelerate that production. But she's also said we should look at the other areas. For example, look, there's already drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. We know that. And we can look at the outer continental shelf. But what's important to understand, and this is, I think, very important for the American people, is that that is not going to have any significant impact on price now, and even 10 years from now, it's small. And as long as we have only about 3% of the world's oil reserves, but we're guzzling about 20% of the world's oil supplies, we're going to have to look elsewhere in the renewable energy area.
All right. Chris Van Hollen, we thank you very much for joining us live today from Doocy. Eric Cantor, we had some problems with his satellite reception, so we're going to have him on to talk about this tomorrow.
He may argue against that Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Some say that won't have any effect either, but we'll hear from Eric tomorrow.
Here's my worry. They take all the oil out of that. Then what will we do if we're in a real
emergency?
Right. So,
good debate.
All right.
Tropical Storm Faye has hit land.